Good evening, Mr. Deputy President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, alumni, students, colleagues, esteemed guests. As President of SOAS, it's my great pleasure to invite you and welcome you to this very special event. My name's Zainab Badawi, and it's a great pleasure to have the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile of South Africa, and High Commissioner, and our very special guests from South Africa this evening. So it's actually very auspicious, Mr. Deputy President, that it is, we're celebrating 30 years of that very, very landmark, wonderful, heroic year. It was a very productive year for me actually, because the first of my 4 children was born that same year. So he is definitely a born free, and I'm very, very glad that it was such a landmark year for me, both personally and also as an African. You know, we have very deep ties here at SOAS with South Africa. Not to say we're very grateful that you've given us the export in the form of Professor Adam Habib, and it's a shame that he can't be with us this evening for various reasons. But you know, we have very, very strong connections that we really value across government, academia and business, and they're very important to us. And in fact, just to name one, in partnership with South Africa, we're very firm in our mission to reimagine higher education. We're very, very keen to nurture the ties between the so-called global north and global south, and to say actually the lines are blurred between the two. We're now in the second academic year of a landmark partnership with the University of the Witwatersrand in Johannesburg, a joint doctoral program in applied development economics, and it's the first fully equitable partnership at SOAS to introduce a program with a single fee structure for both domestic and international students, no difference whatsoever there. It's a great honour to be listening to you make your comments, not only to tell us about, give us your insights about the Government of National Unity, those of us who have been following events very, very avidly in South Africa in the last year or so particularly, but also because South Africa assumes the presidency of the G20 in December, and of course you'll be hosting the G20 summit next year. But before we hear from you, Mr. Deputy President, I'd like to introduce the Minister of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, Ms. Marapini Ramakopa. And Marapini, we met a long, long time ago in Arusha in Tanzania, when you were a member of the ANC Youth League, if I remember rightly. And so it's fast forward a few years and look at you. And you are now Deputy Secretary General of the ANC, and you've been in post for about a year as Minister, and you've been very active at various levels of the ANC, particularly in the Youth League, as I said, but also in the Women's League. So please do introduce your Deputy President for us, and feel at liberty to say a little bit more if you wish. Thank you, Marapini.
Thank you very much, Zainab, and good evening, or it is evening. Good evening to everyone. And let me take this opportunity, of course, to acknowledge the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, who's also the Deputy President of the African National Congress. And let me also greet everyone that is here, the ministers that we came with, and the officials from South African government that are very excited to be here, and all of you, of course, that are here, the staff members and everybody else that is a leader of this auspicious institution. It is true indeed that in 2013, I was just reminding her that you will not remember me. But at some conference you did interview me. I was representing the ANC Youth League, and it was quite an exciting time, of course, and you still look young, still looks the same. But we really
You can come back again.
We're excited to be here, most especially because we are here on a to unlock investment opportunities and partnership. And we gather here at this auspicious university this evening. We're really excited precisely because SOAS has close ties with South Africa. And many South Africans have been educated at this institution, including our Deputy President, who's still a student here as well. Come and also further our studies here to follow our Deputy President. SOAS has also forged strong partnership, of course, with South African institutions of higher education, becoming a very important partner to our country's development. This partnership, of course, between South Africa and the United Kingdom, of course, is important, most especially because we are taking presidency, I think you all know, of the G20, and we are advancing the message of saying that we hope to make sure that we do build relationships that would assist us to continue with our developmental agenda as a country, but to build stronger relations so that whatever it is that we'll be doing commercially and whatever it is that we'll be doing in developing young minds such as yourself will then now be able to bring us all together as a globe and make this globe that we are living in a little bit smaller. The Deputy President, of course, as you may all be aware, is the Deputy President of a new government, a government that is called the Government of National Unity. On the 29th of May 2024, South Africa went for an election, and that election happened the way that it did, and no one got a majority in terms of votes. So we had to come up with the leadership that would then now take us forward, and the Deputy President and the President of the country had to sit down and lead a negotiation that then now allowed us to have the government that we have today. This Deputy President, of course, of ours, as I've already said, has led the ANC in Gauteng, which is the hub, the economic hub of our country, but not only the economic hub, it is also a higher institution hub as well, so it becomes an intellectual hub of our country. He has led it as the chairperson. He has led it also as the secretary of the province. He has also led it as the secretary of the South African Communist Party. So he then now later on moved on and became the Treasurer General of the ANC. And later on in 2022, he was elected the Deputy President of the ANC. Then later on in 2023, the President appointed him for the first time as the Deputy President of the country. He also led a number of youth movements, so he has been a student activist as well. So it means that the democracy that we are celebrating today, the 30 years democracy, he built it during his time when he was still your age, and he had made sure that whatever it is that he was doing, we then now would be able to celebrate the democracy and the freedom that South Africans are today talking about, and Africa is also celebrating. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take this opportunity to ask our Deputy President to give us this lecture that we've been waiting for quite a very long time. Mr. Deputy President.
Say there'll be an opportunity for Q&A after the Deputy President has finished his address.
Is this one on? Thank you, Marupin, for the introduction. Marupin has a very long title. It's called Minister in the Presidency responsible for monitoring, evaluation, planning. And she likes saying to people, I'm her boss. But I think when it's said when it's all said and done, she's the boss of all of us. Because she must check whether we have proper plans, and then she come to monitor them, evaluate them, and she tells us if we are going wrong. But thank you very much for the introduction. President Zain, once again, thank you for inviting us and receiving us this afternoon. Let me also recognize ministers and deputy ministers who are traveling with us. Deputy Vice Chancellor for Education, Professor Joanna Newman. Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research and Knowledge Exchange, Professor Laura Hammond. Deputy Vice Chancellor for Finance and Operation, Kadit Mier. And all professors here present. I may not have been given a list of everybody, but all of you distinguished guests, good evening to all of you, including our High Commissioner, who has joined us, Dr. Mamabulu, Deputy High Commissioner as well, Dineo Matlakwa. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start by saying that I am truly honored to have been invited to address this esteemed gathering at SOAS University this afternoon. I also want to thank SOAS for accepting me to do my postgraduate studies at this university. However, Marupin, owing to increased workload, I had to delay my studies. I think you might think I'm running away. I had to delay my studies, especially this year because of a lot of responsibilities that came with the government of national unity. I do think things will settle down at some point. And now that I'm here, I'm sure I will be motivated to return to come and continue my studies. Let me also thank SOAS for having opened doors for many students all over the world, especially from the African continent. Many of them have achieved their master's degrees, and you may not believe that, in fact, many of them are ministers in government, some of them CEO of major corporates and banks. So we must thank SOAS for that. In one of our South African languages, Sesotho, we say Ria Leboga, meaning we thank you most sincerely. We want you to continue to offer this kind of opportunities to many out there, especially in the African continent. I'm currently the chairperson of the Human Resource Development Council in government, and I'd like to create an opportunity for the HRDC to partner with SOAS so that we can increase skills that are required by our economy, particularly focusing on young people. My delegation and I, as Minister Marupin Ramokgopa said, are here in the United Kingdom to build on the outcomes of the state visit that was undertaken by President Ramaphosa in 2022, with a specific focus on how we can work together to ensure inclusive economic growth and ensure a balance and increase of trade between South Africa and the United Kingdom. As I said earlier, some of the ministers will be interacting with you this evening. Some are busy with other meetings elsewhere, but also there are some government officials here you can chat to later. As we gather here today, we all know that there are major mega trends that are influencing the world, including globalization, geopolitical inequalities, environmental crisis, climate change, demographic changes, and also technology convergence, but more seriously, poverty and wars. Let's look at some of the statistics. The current global population is estimated to be 7.7 billion people. However, forecasts indicate that it will grow to 8.5 billion by 2030 and 9.7 billion by 2050. Half of the 2 billion individuals predicted to be added to this population actually come from Africa. The problem is that as the population growth increases, inequality also rises, endangering peace and stability worldwide, and especially in Africa. Furthermore, the world is rapidly urbanizing, with predictions that 70% of the world's population will reside in cities by 2030. This is a call for investing where people reside. Specifically, we need to focus also on rural infrastructure, because if we don't do so, people leave for the cities. So it's important that we should prioritize developments in our rural areas. I visited China at some point when I was still chairman of the ANC in Gauteng, and one of the things they indicated to my delegation was that they had a big challenge of many people in rural areas moving to cities. They decided at that time that they must now put a lot of infrastructure in rural areas, ensure that there are proper roads, telecommunication, and it worked for them, because as you know that China is a big population, and their migration to cities were millions of people. And because of that approach, they were able to get more people to stay in rural areas and farm, proper roads to take their products to cities, and did not have to leave rural areas. So we should see this as a chance to attract more investors to rural areas. As we said earlier, we are talking to a lot of investors here in London, and most of them are happy to come to South Africa to invest. And we brought amongst us the Deputy Minister of Agriculture, who has been talking to them about opportunities in those rural and farming areas. As government, we believe that we must prioritize urban planning solutions that can also adapt to these changes. This includes investing in ecosystem and infrastructure needed to ensure a decent standard of living for all people. This will also necessitate the building of new cities on well-located land with amenities to ensure a better life for all citizens. We made a mistake when we came into power 30 years ago, because we were under pressure to provide housing to our people. We started building houses closer to where the townships are. Now, if you know South Africa, you know that most of our townships are outside major cities. In fact, a bit far away from industries. And people are spending a lot of money paying for transport to reach their places of employment. We later realized that that's a big problem, and we have started changing that. And I had an opportunity at some point to be a provincial minister of housing. We call them in South Africa MECs. MECs member of the Executive Council. The national minister said to us at the time when we came into power in 1994, and they said to us, don't call yourself ministers, you are ABCs. So we couldn't use a word provincial minister or anything. They said don't touch. So we were MECs. We are still MECs if you are in a province. So I happened to be an MEC for housing, and we started turning that around and started identifying well-located land closer to industries and building houses, and including social housing, because the subsidy from the South African government focused on people who were at the low end. I think those were earning even less than 5,000 a month household income. And there was a gap. Those who were earning a bit more than that, 7,000, 8,000 a month, but can't get bonds from banks, were left out. So we started introducing solutions to address people who are in that gap market so that they can also get housing. And that necessitated us to build a lot of social housing, including flats. South African people did not like flats, and not like here in London. Everybody wanted their yard, and so on. So we had to say to people, look, there are many people who need houses. We had to start building flats through social housing. Now, according to the 2023 Atlas of Sustainable Goals, the global Gini coefficient has fallen since 1990 from about 70 to 62% in 2019, which represents significant progress in reducing global inequality. This suggests that despite progress in reducing inequality, a significant gap still exists between the rich and the poor, indicating the need for more global work to promote economic equality. As I said earlier, climate change is one of the most pressing issues of our time, and as we all know, it poses a significant threat to humanity and the planet. It is a complex problem that demands urgent and consistent action from every individual, organization, and government. So our government has committed to using the insights and recommendation from the State of Climate Action in South Africa report to inform the scaling up of the country's actions to respond to climate change. We have also agreed that when we host the G20 next year, this will be one of the important agenda items, because we're taking over from Brazil by the 1st of December. South Africa will take over the presidency of the G20, and we are hosting the G20 in 2025. We are actively adopting sustainable practices to reduce the carbon footprint. The global community must unite to address this issue with utmost seriousness and commitment. So this is a very important issue, and even in my meeting before I came here with the Secretary of State, E.D. Miliband, we discussed this matter regarding the issue of climate change, the net zero, how do we move through the just transition, and also the support that the big economies can give to us in the developing world. The other thing that is important that worries everybody is the need for peace in the world. So we call upon world leaders to work for